Hello and welcome to another episode of The Living Philosophy. Today I want to talk about an aphorism from Nietzsche's Beyond Good and Evil. It's in the second section about free spirits, around aphorism 20 or something like that. But he talks about 3 different speeds of thinking. He talks about gangasrotagati, that is to think at the speed of the Ganges as the Ganges flows. Then there's kurmagati, which is the speed of a tortoise. And there's mandeikagati, which is to move like a frog. And gangasrotagati is obviously quite fast. It's free flowing and it moves like a river. Whereas kurmagati, to move like a tortoise, is to move very, very slowly. And mandeikagati is to leap forward and periodically leap forward. So obviously the gangasrotagati is moving so fast. And when you read Nietzsche, when you read the aphorisms, each one of them is so dense. At the start of Genealogy of Morality, he talks about how these 3 essays that make up that book are just 3 extended aphorisms. And there's hundreds of aphorisms in Beyond Good and Evil and Human All Too Human and his other books. And you realise how much thought and depth there is within a single thought. And so if Nietzsche was to move and like a scholar, and he says often that he's created the work and scholars can dig down into it and expand it out. He's given them seeds almost. And the scholarly movement is kurmagati. It's that slow, painstaking attention to detail, and that's obviously very important. Especially we see the fruits of that in the modern world because scientists stopped and they went kurmagati and they said, stop, let's have a look at this. So there's a lot of value to kurmagati. But when you read Nietzsche, there's something beautiful, there's something electrifying about gangasrotagati, about the speed at which he moves and how he leaves a thought when it's developed in that compact form of the aphorism. And really, I found his decline just something that's very fascinating. In 1889, at the end of 1889, at the age of 44, Nietzsche collapsed in a square in Turin in Italy and broke down hugging a horse. The horse was being whipped brutally by its master, and Nietzsche broke down in sympathy and in tears and hugging the horse, and that was essentially him losing his sanity. He wrote maybe 5 or 6 letters after that, before essentially spending the rest of the 10 years of his life in a catatonic state, just completely tuned out. But in those letters, he signs them. He writes one to Cosima Wagner, Wagner's wife, and signs it off as Dionysus the Crucified. And he's clearly experiencing like some very archetypal ego inflation. But you see that throughout Nietzsche's writing, this ego inflation, this sense of I am dynamite, I am something mighty, the world has not seen the like of this. And I feel like that's connected in with his gangasrotagati. He's not moving slow, he's moving. The image that comes to mind is the sandals of Hermes, the winged sandals that Perseus uses to fly across the world. And it's that he's moving with such speed and at such height. And sure, he doesn't go into the depths and map out the entire area, but he brings us flickers of so many different areas. On the other hand, you can think of the mandeikagati. That's kind of you could see that, we'll say, that happens even within Nietzsche's thought. I think when I think of mandeikagati, I think of paradigm shifts. I think of we're here now, and we're here now, and we're here now, and then something happens. Einstein publishes Theory of Relativity, and there's a leapfrog ahead, and something completely new happens, and there's a completely new insight. The same would happen with Newton's work. Or you could say that Socrates triggered that back in ancient Athens. Certainly the victory of the Greeks in the Persian War led to that as a whole culture. There was a mandeikagati. It leapfrogged into a new paradigm. And so I think of that mandeikagati as that jump, that way of the frog, as leaping forward, and then not really moving much, and then leaping forward. And I definitely see this in terms of like personal growth. There are times when you've got massive growth, and I can see that in Nietzsche, between, let's say, The Dawn and the book The Dawn and The Gay Science. And at The Gay Science, that's when Zarathustra is starting to come out, and that's a massive leapfrog forward. But Nietzsche's always, his way of travelling is always gangasrotagati. There's so much insight, so much density, but he's willing to move on. He doesn't get too hung up in it. And I wonder, to follow that, do you not get bogged down in the daily, in the prosaic aspects of writing, where you're so much attention to detail? Is he leapfrogging on into amazing new, well, I shouldn't say leapfrogging, because that would be the way of the frog, but is he flowing on to newer worlds? And does that style lend itself to what happened to Nietzsche mentally? Obviously, style is a very personal thing, and of course it's a reflection. He couldn't but say that the philosopher's life is nothing to the philosopher is impersonal, he says, and his life is always just a reflection of who he is. His work is a reflection of his own personality. So yeah, I just find that's a thought that's really been sticking with me recently, and I've been thinking about maybe cultivating a more aphoristic style to explore this different mindset of gangasrotagati rather than the way of the frog or the way of the tortoise. So yeah, I think there's a great insight to Nietzsche just in that one aphorism, as there is in all his aphorisms, and that of course fits with the subject matter. But yeah, there's so much. I think it's a rich insight, and you can see it when you look at different thinkers. So that would be my thought for the day. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, please subscribe, comment below, give us a thumbs up, and I'd love to hear from you if you have any comments or any insights. Thanks a million for watching.